Hey, Paul, you've planted a seed which is starting to sprout. You're moving on from the IIRC. What will full blossom look like from your perspective? What would you like to see happen?
Well, there's a longer term play and there's a shorter term play. I mean, in the world of integrated reporting, what we need to see is both adoption, right, in terms of the quantity, but we also need to see the alignment of the different reporting, and I won't call them initiatives, standards and guidelines. They all operate in silos in general, and we have brought them together to some extent because they all sit around our table amongst the others that are there. But for the first time since the creation of the IIRC, you've got the major standard setters and guidelines and framework setters together. And so to me, if you're just talking about the reporting system as against the deeper integrated thinking, to me, I would like to see more and more connectivity between those organisations. Now, we convened something called the Corporate Reporting Dialogue, which is just the corporate reporters. Right, so there's 8 organisations that sit in that, from the International Accounting Standards Boards to the US GAAP, the FASB, to GRI and others. And that's a good start. But I do believe we need to start seeing leadership of the system, not just of each individual component. So I would like to see, from an IRC point of view, an integrated reporting point of view, I want to see that what you might start to call finish the breakthrough and start to move into what I'll use an odd word, normalization. So it is normal to do integrated reporting. But to me that was never the intention. This is not a product. This is a change in the system to create better behaviours and a better capital market system. And so the longer term play is that I personally believe that there should not be all these separate organisations. Now, what that means structurally, I don't know, but I don't necessarily see the IRC as necessarily being the lead there. But there needs to be collaboration that is deeper than just a dialogue. And so in the long term, I think we need to see everybody with the same vision and the same oversight.
Do you think there's a role in there for any new super organisation to really focus on the Sustainable Development Goals? Can it contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals and their achievement?
Well, I think, to my mind, the Sustainable Development Goals must be embedded in capital market goals. Right, so I don't see there needs to be a super organisation for the Sustainable Development Goals of themselves. I think they should be part of what the super organisation does in reporting terms, in transparency terms, for both as a financially stable economies as well as the sustainable development through the Sustainable Development Goals. And I really do believe that until you've got, whether it's the G20 or whoever it is that convenes it, I don't really care. But either the organisations themselves come together in some form or other, or there is a super organisation that's created where they sit, which owns the mission. And that, when you come back to the Sustainable Development Goals, that's part of a mission. It's not part of a real reporting standard, as I see it.
I mean, as you said, there's lots of different developments all the time. One I wanted to ask you about was KPMG's idea that there should be double entry accounting for all 6 capitals. They mention it in their True Vision of Value report as something that should be aspired to. Is that feasible? Is that desirable?
I think it's a way of looking at it. Yeah, I'm not. I think it's good to have raised it. I think it's a good idea, but let's be sure that it isn't about extending the balance sheet and P&L that we know about. Right, I'm against that. I'm not talking about carbon pricing. I think that's something different. Okay, so let's not talk. I'm talking about the broader issues that are not. You can't bring everything into a balance sheet, right? And I spent my 25 years of my career running a business, creating and running a business. And don't you believe that the balance sheet is the be-all and end-all? It is not, right? It's very important that it is not the be-all and end-all. So let's not try to make mini balance sheets all over the place. Let's go back to, the closest I would get to it would be a balanced scorecard. Yeah, and I'm not saying balanced scorecard is the answer, but that's the thinking. What actually drives the business? Yeah. And if you've got sustainable development goals, if you've got environmental and social indicators and targets in your balanced scorecard, that is driven, it is also driving incentives, right, within the business for management and others, as well as for the whole business in terms of its value creation. That's when you start to really make a difference. Just as an anecdote, I went to see Professor Kaplan, right? Kaplan and Norton was the balanced scorecard.
The balanced scorecard people.
Yeah, absolutely, the original balanced scorecard. Wonderful man at Harvard Business School. And he was very excited by integrated reporting because one of his biggest concerns over balanced scorecard is that it's only internal. And surely if you are running the balanced scorecard, why isn't that your external? Why aren't you telling people where you've got to? Some of that goes back to your earlier point about everything in the house has to be seen to be rosy, but that's nonsense. If I go back to my business life, I always owed money to banks, or quite a substantial amount of time. And the key there is that when you're reporting to a bank, you've got to tell them that there are problems coming, not that you're in the middle of one. Otherwise they will not be happy with you and you've got a problem. And so it's the same in your balanced scorecard. You will have, I always have worked with traffic lights. If you've got a red traffic light, you must tell the bank, in my case. You must tell your investors, you must tell your key stakeholders. And the key is that you've got the management eye on solving and mitigating the issue.
Okay, thank you. Now, a lot of the work that you've done and the passion that you've put into it has been driven by values, your values. What values would you like your successor to have?
Nobody's asked me that question ever, Carol. What a great question. Values, okay, I think, in fact, embedded in the IIRC we have some values, organisational values, but I don't think that's necessarily the thing. I think what I'm most looking for, what I hope that my successor will have, is that idea, that joint idea of capital market stability and sustainable development. I think if there's a focus on one and not the other, I will be disappointed, if truth be told. But I think the balance between the two is also a very delicate balance, as we talked about, to get to. But I would like to see the values being about somebody who is trying to drive better rather than trying to drive more or selling a product, if you like.
Okay.
We should be expendable as the IIRC. Yeah, we're not an organisation that has to exist. Whilst we need to exist, we should, but we must have a bigger vision,
picture.
Bigger picture. Yeah.
Do you think that the IIRC's governance structures are right now to keep that balance in check between sustainable development and capital markets that you've said is important?
I do. I mean, we had a new constitution last year. Was embedded on I think it was the 1st of October 2015. We have a new board which is very independent. We don't. Whereas before it tended to be, it was focused on the founders, if you like, of the IIRC. Now it is independent, very senior people in the world. The council still has the effective mandate of the mission. If that vision and mission. Whereas the board is more about the strategy to deliver the mission.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's been delightful to speak with you.